Welcome back to CHGO Bears After Dark here on a Monday night, a Game 7 Monday night, Stanley Cup Finals wrapping up here tonight. Cubs on a late West Coast trip playing the Giants, so a lot of different things on the sports docket tonight. So we're going to have some fun, talk some Bears as we do every weeknight, here on CHGO Bears After Dark with Corey Wootton. How you doing tonight, Corey?
I'm doing good, man. I saw a little couple clips of when Henry Melton was on the show. Seemed like a good time with him, man. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, he said what were you saying about him? The dive, the chop, what did you call it?
Chip diving. So basically what we used to say is like when you weren't on your keys, you was messing around, we used to call that chip diving. Like he was over there chip diving. So that was kind of the inside joke. He probably was laughing about that, right?
All right. Yeah, no, he definitely was. And then because I was telling him, that you're always giving me shit. And he was like, well, you're going to have to ask Corey about the robot. And we were like, the robot? And he was like, Corey got some moves. He's got some dance moves on the robot. Now, I remember at Joe's on Weed after our second night there, you were vibing a little bit, but I don't remember you busting out the robot on us.
Exactly. Yeah, I saved that for special occasions,
Okay. Well, when we get into the season and we're doing post-game shows and we get, a big Bears win, we might have to bust out the Woot robot.
Okay, I can promise that, but I gotta make sure that you're not doing it, and I hope that you have sleeves when you do it, because what you're showcasing on this Bears After Dark segment is pitiful, bro. It's awful. Like, oh my god.
Did you see I shaved my head? Did you see I shaved? You see that?
Yeah, and I saw they were making fun of you. Like, who does he look like?
Yeah. Little Urlacher action. No, I mean I'm looking flex. Come on now, look at that. Come on, look at that. Give me a little credit here. A little bit of definition. A little bit.
Bro. Bro, in the comments, man, there's a thing nowadays, it's called TRT. I think a lot of people are on it that have trouble getting muscle mass. Maybe you should get
Hey, listen, this is all natural over here, baby. This is all natural over here. Yeah, all right, that's fine. My golf game's been getting better and better every week. So
you gonna beat Hogue now or what?
Dude, I'll smoke Hogue and Carm. That's not even a challenge. I went out with Steven the other day, this nice course over, in between the studio and where I live in Northwest Indiana, called Harborside, and I thought I played pretty well. It was a nice course.
Yeah, I played that course.
Harborside's a nice course. So I shot a 96, a legit 96, no molly.
What tees?
He didn't play on the freaking tips, all right?
So would you play 2 from the tips?
The next one up. No, just the next one up from the tips. I promise. The next one up from the tips.
All right.
God damn. Not all of us can punch it 320 yards. Today I went out and I was working on my distance on my drive, because that's the next frontier. I'm not gonna say the final frontier for my game, but I'm starting to get my putting down. My irons are working. I'm on fire, and now I just need to get I'm never gonna get distance like you on my drive. But no, I ain't worried about Carm or Hogue. They ain't nothing on me.
Oh, I mean, realistically, most courses you don't need anything more than 240, 250. They're not that long where you need to, like, there's some times where I don't even bring out the driver, but yeah, I mean, it's good to see, but I don't know if you're beating Hogue. I seen Hogue swing. Hogue got a nice swing.
He's got a smooth swing, but I've been getting more practice than in him. Somebody's got to work around here.
So whoever's doing the clips, can you clip this? So just so we're clear, you said one-on-one match, 18 holes, you'll beat Hogue.
I will beat Hogue and Carm. Yes.
So Hogue.
Yes.
Adam Hogue. Now I'm not talking about the different Hogue. Hogue.
Adam Hogue. I ain't talking about his son. I'm talking about Adam.
Wow.
Adam.
Wow. Okay, Hogue. If you hear this, man, I got my money on you. So I'm just saying that.
But if we're gonna go out, we'll get into our topics here, because I know everybody's excited to hear about your top 5. Who's gonna make the cut? But if we're gonna go out, this is a gentleman's sport. We're not talking crap for 18 holes. We're gonna be quiet and we're gonna enjoy the day and we're gonna play. We're not gonna. I can't play with everybody yapping in my ear like I'm at the free throw line in the Boston Garden. Okay.
Got you.
Everybody just be quiet, be civil, and then I'll play. If not, I'm not playing with you guys.
Okay. I get it.
Hippie Nerd says, just tuned in to hear Braggs' line. I'm not lying, and I'll beat you too, Hippie. All right, so let's get into this. You know, I challenged Woot to come up with, give me his top 5.
Oh, I have to do 5? I can't do 10? I can't.
You can do 10, but we'll do 5. All right, so we'll do 5, and we can take our time with each player. I want to hear a good story about each guy.
Yeah.
You know, but your top 5 teammates, will start with 5 and work our way down to 1, and then, you know, later in the show, if you want to give some bonus love to some of your other teammates that didn't, but I wanted to see who made the cut, who didn't make the cut. Yeah. I know you played with some great Bears in your career. You were at a great time here in Chicago, where some of the most legendary players that I really looked up to, yourself included, the reason that I became the diehard Bears fan that I am today is a lot from your era that you played in, and the coaches for that matter, you know, with Lovie Smith as well. So I wanted to challenge you on this. So like I said, we'll take our time. We'll spread this out a little bit. Want to hear some fun old school stories. We can talk about Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. We're going to have all year to talk about that, and I'm excited to do it. But I figured for a little fun summer exercise, we'll get into your top 5. So, Corey, number 5 on your list of who your favorite teammates were to play. I mean, hey, you can't say like everybody's like, oh, who's your favorite kid? Oh, they're all my favorite kids. No. You're gonna have a list.
This is so hard because there's so many people that come to mind, and I feel like this is going to be a very defensive heavy list. Obviously, right? Because I was on the defense side of the ball. We don't
need qualifiers. We don't. And then you know what? We don't need qualifiers. You gave me your top 5, and then we'll do your top 5 of the teammates you hated at the end. No, I'm kidding.
Man, this is so hard. All right. Shoot. So I'm gonna say number 5. I'm gonna go with Julius Peppers. Right.
Julius Peppers,
former defensive end. Was a big mentor, helped out a lot, and he's one of those leaders that leads by example. And as I got older, got to pick his brain, got to know him really well, and literally was one of the nicest guys in the world. Came to work every day, true pro. Just how he attacked film study, what his thought process was, you know, going against different offensive tackles, and just a nice guy, right? Really humble, down to earth. Didn't have a big ego. And that's what I respected the most about him. And it was just growing up, he was obviously, like, when I was in college and when I first got in the league, he was a guy that I looked up to always. So it was awesome to play with him. So I have to have Pep at number 5.
He was a freak. There's no question about it. You know, played basketball in college, you know, dropping big numbers for UNC, North Carolina. And, you know, obviously had, I mean, a Hall of Fame career with the Panthers even before he arrived in Chicago. And, you know, even played special teams, you know, when he came to Chicago, and had a bunch of blocked kicks, blocked field goals that were in some big moments. You know, of all the players, and I think I've said this here on the show before, but like, you know, what's so great about going to training camp, Hallis Hall, obviously, but especially Bourbonnais, where we just were so close to the players, and the stands were literally right on the practice field. You could stand on the ropes and you'd basically be in the corner of the end zone, you know, and that's kind of where I really fell in love with everything Chicago Bears. Was like going to a training camp once in a you know, a tackle made out of bounds, and it would like happen right at your feet, you know, and like you pay so much money as a fan to go to the games, to be able to go to Bourbonnais for free and have that action literally right underneath, you know, your chin. You really understood, you know, what it took for you guys to play at that level. And Julius Peppers was the most imposing player I've ever seen in my life. And we're talking about training camps where we saw Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, yourself, and just so many Goliaths walking around, Kyle Long, Big Cat Williams, and like just guys that were just unbelievable. You look at them and you're just like, man, I live in a totally different planet than these guys. And Julius was the king of them all, in my opinion. Like I had never seen somebody so big, and he was very gracious with the fans. And one time I had the opportunity to meet him and shake his hand, and I've never, like, I know we arm wrestled and you dominated me, no question, but like Julius Peppers' handshake was it swallowed my hand. I've never seen anybody that big in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I think people don't realize, like, because I'm a big dude. When people meet me, they're like, bro, you're huge. But, like, Peppers, the thing is, like, for as big as he was, how fast he was and athletic. I don't think the NFL, right? People talk about Myles Garrett and how he's a freaking age. Think about it. Myles Garrett's about 260, about 6'3", 6'4", and Peppers was faster than him. No, if they raced in their primes, Peppers would smoke him, without a doubt. Like, and he weighed 300 pounds on the regular, like 10% body fat. Like, I don't think the NFL's ever seen, because they use that term all the time, right? Freaking age or freaking age. Julius Peppers is like Javon Curse, right? Was the freak,
right?
But realistically, Julius Peppers was the freak. Literally faster than anybody out there at 300 plus pounds.
And he wasn't exactly a workout warrior either, right? Like
he didn't really work out like lifting weights because he got too bulky. And that's the crazy part about it. You see him, you're like, damn, the dude's shoulders and huge. But he felt like he got too bulky. Like he probably low-key probably could have been a bodybuilder if he wanted to, if he really like focused. I mean, he just had that big genetics. And literally it's crazy that he would lift like a couple times in the off season, play basketball, do some agility drills, some pass rush stuff, and come ready to go. Like, the crazy part is, before most games, most practices, he never warmed up, ever. Like, no, we get in the stretch lines. Like, he maybe did a couple down and backs or something like that, but he was mostly chilling. Like, that's the crazy part about it. Even as he got older in his career, I feel like he just had that body type that, like, didn't get injured. Like, you're like, oh, you're getting up in there in age, and some people slow down, or their back hurts or their knees. That was never the case with him. So I think he is a special breed of athlete, like a LeBron James, that, like, as he gets older, he's still the same. You don't see any signs of slowing down, and that's the most impressive thing about him. And just such a down-to-earth guy. And it was awesome, like, playing with arguably the best defensive end to ever play the game. I know people are going to say, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, that they're top two, but you got to show some love to Julius Peppers, because I think what he was able to do at such a high level for so long, and the athleticism, NFL has never seen a defensive end that big with that freakish of athleticism and the strength. Like, I think about him, and I think he had elements of Reggie White, where he had that hump move, where he would just deplete people. I remember Jake Long. I think I told this story to you guys. When Jake Long was king, offensive tackle, he was a Pro Bowler. He was, basically one of the best in the league. So one time he pushed Julius Peppers after a play, and he got. This is the one time I see him get really mad. He was like, "All right, that's it." He proceeded to get 3 sacks on him in a row, like on passing plays, not like consecutive, but every passing play after that. And he was like, "Oh, get in there, I'm done." Like, I was like, "Yo, when that dude turned it on, you could not stop him." Like, honestly, I don't think anybody in the league could touch him, especially when he got fired up. Not at all. Like, yep. I've never seen anybody that explosive, that strong. He had get off like Dwight Freeney. He could bend. Like, what 6'7" dude can bend like a Robert Mathis or Dwight Freeney and have the strength of Reggie White? He had all the elements of all the greats, and it's so awesome to see him be in the Hall of Fame. And when people talk, hey, what was it like? I was like, man, I played for one of the best defenses ever to play in the NFL. Really, with Julius Peppers, Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Peanut Tillman, Tim Jennings when he had those great years. Henry Melton, was one of the top D tackles for a couple of years. It was just so fun playing with those guys. And that's something that I'll never forget. It's just that defense, the intensity, the guys there, they were all awesome. And yeah, that's why this list is so hard because I have so many fond memories. And
Yep.
it was really a great locker room. I really do think it was different than a lot of these locker rooms nowadays. And guys were close, guys had fun, and we made every day fun. We made it interesting.
Yeah. Well, and it was a pleasure to watch as a fan. And I know this team now is going to try to live up to what you guys set the tone with and running that same cover two foundation that they're trying to rebuild here again. And it's going to be hard to hit the peak of what you guys did, in the glory days and, back when you were playing with these guys. So, and I also think Julius Peppers is one of the best free agent signings in Chicago Bears history. And when Lovie Smith took the plane to Carolina to go pick him up on the first day of free agency, obviously this offseason was a big year for free agency, but that was a big moment for Chicago Bears fans as well to get the big ticket in Julius Peppers. And he lived up to every single dollar that the Bears spent on him. So, I'm excited to hear the rest of your list. But before you do, I want to give a quick shout out to our guys over at BetterHelp. And, they're a great organization and these guys do great work. And I just want to make sure everybody understands what they're all about. The year's gone by quickly. I'm super proud of everything we're doing with Addison. She just got done with soccer practice and we're looking, forward to her, first grade coming up here, and we're really hoping that she can knock some things out in terms of mathematics and reading and getting her letters she's got all her letters down, but she needs to get up to 100 words and stuff. So those are some of the goals we're setting for the year, and that's kind of what BetterHelp is all about, is setting goals and accomplishing those. And when life goes so fast, it's important to take a moment to celebrate your wins and make adjustments for the rest of the year. Therapy can help you take stock of your progress and set achievable goals for the next 6 months. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. This is something that helps you, at your home, get through your daily routine with the right and proper mindset. That's what BetterHelp is all about. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So take a moment, visit betterhelp.com/CHGO to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/CHGO, and make sure you get in touch with them today. Another one that I want to give a shout out here too is Prize Picks. Prize Picks, that you want to get in on this for Game 7 here coming up for the Stanley Cup Finals. Final one. We'll see if the Edmonton Oilers can come back from 3-0. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. So make sure you're hitting them up, to make your wagers, and you can make some money off what they're trying to do. And with as little as 4 correct picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000. So if you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has you covered every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. The hoop with NBA finals over, the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball, we all just watched, the Chicago Sky take down the Indiana Fever here over the weekend. That's heating up. You can make names alongside greats like Breanna Stewart and Ajay Wilson. You can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So download the app today and use the code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CHGO for first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy. All right. So appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight. We're going through Corey Wootton's top 5 teammates of all time. Maybe if we get to the end, throw some bonus love, but I wanted to whittle it down to his top 5. and whether it's for on the field or in the locker room or behind the scenes, I wasn't, I didn't have a standard for why they're in your top 5. So however you want to slice this, number 5 was Julius Peppers, about to be inducted into the Hall of Fame here in about a month, a little over a month. So your number 4 teammate of all time with the Chicago Bears.
Well, this is a trio because I can't.
Oh, look at this guy!
I got you. All right, can I do the linebacker trio? Right,
you can do whatever you want.
Woo. Of my Northwestern teammate Nick Roach.
Okay.
Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs, L Boogie. But yeah, those such great teammates to play with. Nick Roach, obviously, I knew him from my Northwestern days. Was a guy that came as an undrafted free agent. He went to San Diego, came on the Bears, was a special teamer, found his role into the starting lineup, was a very productive linebacker at the Sam position, ended up getting a pretty big deal in Oakland, but had to retire because of concussion issues. But really smart guy, athletic, tough as nails, really loved playing aside him in college and the league. And I remember one game, we played Green Bay back in 2012. I don't know if you remember this game. It was in December. It was kind of like those last 4 games. It was like we had Green Bay, last 3 games. So it was Green Bay, Arizona on the road, and then Detroit away. And they had a running back at the time, drawing a blank on his name. But basically, the tackle went down.
Was it Eddie Lacy?
No, it wasn't Eddie Lacy. It was before him. It was like Alex something. He played for
Collins?
Maybe for the Packers.
Okay.
But basically, I went downhill, and the running back, Nick Roach, was on him, and I came through and tried to blast the running back, and I ended up blasting Nick Roach. running back went outside, went for 5 more yards. I remember looking at Roach on the ground. He's like, "Damn, dude, killed me." And I remember I blasted him because the running back moved at the last second. He saw me, and I friendly fire, and that's one thing you never want to do. I boomed him, and I felt bad for that. But luckily, he got up. He was fine. But yeah, it's always the worst when you have that friendly fire.
Yep.
But it was always like he was such a funny guy, and in the locker room, even in college, like we would always joke around with each other, and it was always good to play with him. And so next, Lance Briggs, right? One of the funniest dudes ever in the locker room. Just made every day fun. He would give the coaches shit. Like he would give everybody he joked around with everybody. And that was so funny about him. And he just had such a light persona. Like he would literally go in the locker room, goof around, or walk through this. And he was the type that could do that, right? The coaches didn't care. They always thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Now, me being a younger guy, if I ever did something like that, they put my ass on the bench. But yeah, it was just always fun, just the goofing around and the box 'em up game that Jack Silverstein he had. Yep. He showed that video, and that was something that we did on a daily basis. Like it was just so fun because it was so strategic, and he was like one of the best at it. He'd be hiding at the weirdest spots, and he never thought he could get boxed up, and then. Izzy Idonije and Anthony Adams, like they'd find a way to get him. And then, just everybody be going nuts because he was the one that you can't get me. But yeah, it was always a good time with him. And then just on the field, I honestly feel like people don't give him enough credit for how good he was. That dude was a killer. Honestly, like I think he's one of the greatest linebackers to ever play. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I think it's disrespectful to his career if he's not. I do honestly think, and that because obviously we had Brian Urlacher, one of the greatest linebackers, one of the faces of the NFL, faces of the Bears. It kind of overshadowed him in a way. I don't know why, because his numbers spoke for itself. It's like they were that dynamic duo. And I think Lance Briggs, right, could knock you out cold. I remember the game in 2011. Calvin Johnson goes across the middle, and Lance Briggs called it. And I mean, I'm talking about he beat the brakes off that dude, like literally forearm shiver right to this is before they were really protecting players. And Megatron, right, 6'5", 6'6", yep. 245 pounds, almost like a tight end nowadays. I mean, was out cold on the ground, like they had to carry him off. And that's just something. And the thing is, people slept on Lance Briggs' speed. I mean, unbelievable quickness, could hit a gap, sideline to sideline, cover. He was so good in the pass game as well, good on his pass rush when they brought him on a blitz. There was no holes in his game at all. And just the level of intelligence was outstanding. So I'm hoping he gets his crown and he gets his flowers because he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame with Brian Urlacher. I think Peanut Tillman does as well. So
well,
I think
you talk about Briggs's speed when he had that interception in Dallas and made that one move, cut up the field. You saw that speed on full display. And he took it to the house.
Exactly. So yeah, just such an underrated player.
And I also think like the thing when you talk about the thing that I loved about Lance was the way he jumped the line of scrimmage on the snap of the ball. Like he would get in the backfield. There would be times where he would time up the snap so well that he would be in the backfield before the line of scrimmage was before the line of scrimmage, got up and after each other. He'd already be back sacking the quarterback. And he always recognized that big moment in the game where, so many times you guys would disguise and show blitz and drop back, boom, get a pick. But then there'd be those moments where you needed to get in the backfield and get a quick stop on third and short, whatever. And Lance Briggs would come up to the line of scrimmage and time it perfectly and be on the quarterback's ass before he literally got into a 3-step drop.
Exactly. It was unbelievable, just the level of intelligence that him and Urlacher had, and just the anticipation. I think that's what makes the great players, whether you're a linebacker, you're a secondary, you're a defensive end, right? That anticipation, whether it's jumping off the snap, jumping the route. And a lot of times it's a gamble, but with your film study and your preparation, it usually paid off for him. And very rarely do you see him get beat or outside of his gap. Like when he took a shot at something, he made it work. And that's something that I think he was one of the best at. And I do, and I don't know if you feel me on this, but I think he's one of the most underrated linebackers. Like people don't even give him enough credit for, like, if you look at his body of work, right? All pro, the amount of all pro teams that he's made, and just like under the radar I honestly think because of Urlacher. He was 100%, kind of in his shadow 100%. In a way. And
because he was a lot like Derek Brooks to this defense. Mm-hmm. And he was at that same level as Derek Brooks. And if it wasn't for Urlacher, being the face of the franchise and the NFL in a lot of ways, I think he would have gotten that Derek Brooks respect here for what he did for the defense. But because they were the dynamic duo and Urlacher being the middle linebacker, and you had Zach Thomas and Ray Lewis, and it was kind of the era for middle linebacker greatness, Yeah, exactly. So, I completely agree with you that Lance is definitely underrated. Another play that comes to mind when you talk about the duo that was Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs was against the Packers when you guys won in overtime late on a Monday Night Football game. Was
2010.
It was one of the it was at the time, it probably still is the coldest game in recorded Soldier Field history. The Packers were trying to ice the game, and James Jones goes up the sideline on the right side. He's about to run out of bounds. Any other team, just because of what you guys were taught with Lovie Smith to never give up on a play, and the relentlessness that was Lance Briggs and Brian Urlacher, they pursued the football all the way to the sideline when James was just trying to get out of bounds. They both knocked the ball out at the same time, and I believe Peanut Tillman fell on it and just kept his knee and his foot in bounds, saved the game. Bears go on to win in overtime. It was an amazing moment. My wife and I were there sitting in the 500 level. The beer was literally freezing in the cup. Like you'd buy a beer, and by the time you went up, it was frozen. If you tried to buy like a piece of pizza, it would freeze in your hand. And it was just a legendary Bears game. And Lance and Urlacher, just had one of those iconic moments that they did so many times throughout their career. And I can remember Tony Kornheiser was on the call, and he was like, this is what they do. This is the Chicago Bears. And that they epitomized, what the monsters of the Midway were. And they lived up to that name in such a legendary way, which is why Brian Urlacher's headed to the Hall of Fame.
And lastly, on Brian Urlacher, didn't get to him yet, but just how nice of a guy he was. I remember when I first got drafted to the Bears, walking in Hallis Hall, And I walked down the hallway and I'm like, oh, that's Urlacher. Like, I want, be cool. Like, you're kind of a little starstruck. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I've been watching this guy on TV since I was a kid. Was at Northwestern. We're watching every Bears game, seeing him ball out. And he comes up to me. He's like, hey, what's up, Woo? It's Urlacher, man. Pleasure to have you on the team, man. Watched you in college. Glad to have you part of the team. And I was like, this is awesome, because you get some reception from other players, and you're kind of like, oh,
yep,
okay. But
Henry,
yeah,
and Henry Melton said the exact same thing, that Urlacher went around and made sure he introduced himself to the newest players, and that certainly is a level of leadership. And I guess us fans, we take those moments for granted. We just assume that all you guys, but to have a guy that made it easier on the young players, that's what leadership is all about. And somebody in the chat here was saying, isn't Urlacher already? He is already.
Yeah.
So I misspoke. I had said, that's why he's heading to the Hall of Fame, but I'm thinking about Peppers and Hester. So thank you, chat, for keeping me in line. Did you have anything else to add? On Urlacher?
I'd probably say one of the most intelligent football players I ever played with. Playing defensive end, he would call out when the boot was, where the trap was, basically what was going on before it was going to happen. And he helped me a lot of times for tackles for loss, for sacks, just because he called out exactly what's going on. And that's the type of level of preparation, anticipation that he knew. He knew exactly what was going on, and like he's never been wrong. At least in my experience of him calling out plays, like he was dialed in. And I think people miss it. Like, yes, you have to have the talent, but you have the talent with the film study, the anticipation, and just knowing what that offense is going to do. It's a different level. And I think that's why Urlacher, even after he hurt his knee, and still maybe wasn't himself, like moving around, he was still very productive. Had that awesome pick in 2012 against the Titans.
Yeah,
I think it just shows just the level of intelligence, anticipation that he always had. It was awesome playing with him. And real quick before we get on to the next number 3, after every time he made the Pro Bowl, he had given us a gift. And I have the picture in another room, but it's sometimes in behind me. It's basically like a still photo of us, in an action shot, and everything else is blacked out. So he gave that to us one year, and the cost of that, like I don't even want to say because it was a significant amount of money, but he gifted that to all of the defensive linemen. And then another year he gave us a personalized bottle of King Louis XIII, which is a very expensive cognac. But that's just the type of guy he was.
Did you drink that already?
Yeah, I drank it after I had my oldest daughter. Yeah, I did.
There you go.
So it was smooth, but just such a stand-up guy. So yeah, it was awesome playing with that trio, and all great guys. And it's something like I mentioned, like playing with Peppers, this defense, all the guys on there, something I'll never forget. So I guess we got to move on to number 3.
Yeah, number 3, real quick, but who's number 1 in our hearts is our guys over at Ray CDJR. We got some different sponsors here that we're bringing on to Bears After Dark here tonight, and Ray Scarpelli is one of our favorites. And when it comes to finding your next vehicle, make Ray CDJR your number 1 draft pick this June. Shop Chryslers, Dodges, Jeeps, and Rams at Ray CDJR in Fox Lake. And during the Make the Summer event, find the perfect vehicle and score huge savings too. So for a limited time, lease the new 2024 Jeep Wrangler for only $419 a month, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. We were on their lot last year for a live showing with Cole Kmet, and they have a lot of great options at your disposal. So let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you land the perfect vehicle at the perfect price, because Ray's Price Promise, the numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. Since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories, then drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake, or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963. And finally, want to give a quick shout out here to our guys over at Illinois Pork Producers. We were cooking up some Illinois pork here last week. It was a lot of fun. We had the grilling dad from Instagram come in, and he was grilling us some really good stuff with some good sauces along with it. It is grilling season, so get your pork. People who are active need more protein than the average American. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and Dietitians of Canada and the American College of Sports Medicine recommend 1.2 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for athletes like myself, depending on the training. 1 3-ounce serving of pork provides 23 grams of high-quality protein that can help active individuals build and preserve muscle. The International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends that people who are involved in a general fitness program or who are interested in optimizing their health eat low-fat, high-quality sources of protein, which include lean cuts of pork. So elevate your protein game with lean pork, a powerhouse of natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork or juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and people behind the product, paid for by the Illinois pork producers. Generations of commitment. Appreciate everybody tuning in once again here tonight. Make sure you're hitting that like button while you're hanging out, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Me and Woot hanging out this summer, doing some looking back to yesteryear, the glory days of Woot's Chicago Bears career, and some of the all-time greats that he had the honor of playing with and we had the honor of watching. So we have now gotten through Julius Peppers at 5, the linebacking trio of Urlacher, Briggs, and Nick Roach with number 4. So now we are moving to number 3. Have at it, Woot.
Yeah, it's 2 people because I can't choose.
You are just cheating, but
no, man. It's Anthony Adams, aka Spice Adams, and Peanut Tillman. Those have to be honestly some of the funniest guys that you ever see, especially before a practice. I mean, you've been to training camp so many times.
Peanut was funny.
Peanut, you don't think it was funny?
I don't know. He's such a serious guy when you interview him. No. I remember when Spice was funny. Everybody remembers his pregame routine. I can remember Briggs being goofy. He was always on, the radio and stuff. And I've heard some interviews, but I don't ever really remember Tillman being, a funny character.
Especially when he was with Spice Adams. Like, we all called him Double A, and now everybody calls him Spice Adams. But
now that he's Hollywood,
he was the funniest before practice. Like, I remember, training camp is one of those times that, like, literally it's a grind, right? Regardless of how easy they say things are, training camp has changed and we don't have this or that. Like, it's a grind. And he would always be that guy, Spice Adams, that would just keep it light, keep it fun, and like literally just when you're miserable, your body's hurting, you're sore, coach is yelling at you, like he would just do something that would just make you laugh. And I think everybody's seen from his Instagram pages like how funny he really is. Mm-hmm. And we all thought like, hey, this guy deserves his own show one day. And I hope one day he could get that because he's just so funny. Like literally his freestyles, his dancing, literally like he's a Q. Black fraternity, Q Dog. So he would always do his dance. So when George Clinton comes on Atomic Dog, that's the Q Dog's like dance song. So he would go around, do this dance and go crazy. And it was like the funniest thing. People would video it.
So that's the dance where he would like pull his shirt up and start slapping his belly.
That wasn't that. That was like a different thing in the locker room. So yeah, it's something different. But that would be something he'd do before the games. But anytime we're in stretch line, like him and Peanut would be together and they do some kind of freestyle thing, and Peanut would make the beats and he would do the freestyle, just be something stupid, and everybody be dying laughing. So he honestly helped me get through a lot of training camps, at least 2 of them when we played together, 2010 and 2011. He just made it so fun. And then
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
he's up to 2 million
Yeah,
followers on Instagram.
yeah,
That's
he's
crazy.
killing it. You know, he has like his own production company that helps shoot his videos, and he he kind of did it. Like, I don't know if you know the backstory. He kind of did it as a dare by one of his family members, and it's turned into what it is now. And I think he makes quite a bit of money, you know, goofing around and being a goofy guy. So it's awesome to see. And then, yeah, Peanut just funny as well. Like, obviously, like Spice or Double A, whatever, however you know him by, is funnier than him. But Peanut, man, it was always funny. Like the box him up game, just just how he was to be around in the lock. Just a great guy, and obviously his skill and talent. A guy that like battled through some tough injuries, like had a fusion in his back, right? Had bad shoulders, like never complained about anything. A guy that put it all on the line and a true pro. And I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as well. I know it might take some time, but I think arguably he was one of the best takeaway guys that the NFL has ever
No
seen. The
question. No
peanut
question.
punch, he invented that. Like, was a true shutdown corner as well. I don't think people give him enough credit for how good he was for somebody that, like, if you think about it, right, didn't have the elite speed that some of these cornerbacks have, but just how feisty he was, like going toe to toe with Megatron for years, going toe to toe with some of Green Bay's finest wide receivers. I mean, he always had their number. So,
And obviously he had the iconic Moss moment early in his
yeah,
career, where he took Randy Moss at the peak of his powers and ripped that ball right out of his hands for the Bears to win the game.
exactly.
And when you talk about turning how he turned the football over, when you look at the list of players all time forced fumbles, it's all linebackers. And one guy sandwiched in between all these all-time great Hall of Fame linebackers, Charles Peanut Tillman. The peanut punch, obviously, learned in some like jujitsu classes or whatever, obviously became something that is an iconic, move within itself, to the point where anytime it happens to this day, they call it the peanut punch on the air. And like that, I mean, was he the first player to ever punch a ball out? No, but he was the first player to ever be known for doing it. And
Yeah.
when we talk about that Titans game so much, it's crazy how that game like almost was like the peak of everything. Like Urlacher pick six, Hester almost house one, you took one to the house, Peanut had 4 forced fumbles. The Bears fans completely flooded Nashville to the point where the light beer, literally they ran out of light beer in Nashville, Tennessee. Like everything that Chicago was like known for kind of came to a head that day. And Peanut in particular, how each time he punched the ball out a different way, brought down the sledgehammer up top one time, came up, punched another time, had so many different moves. And it was to a point where you almost laughed at the other team for even trying him, like even trying to come around him, because you knew that he was going to get it out one way or the other, but yet they kept testing him that day and he made him pay.
Exactly. Like, unbelievable what he was able to do. And just like, if you think about it, like he got drafted what, 03, and finished out with the Bears. I think it was like 15 or 16, something like that.
Yep.
But awesome career. And it was unfortunate to me because I feel like there was a couple guys that I think the previous Bears regime kind of did dirty, right? I think Peanut was one of them. I think Lance Briggs was one of them. And I think Brian Urlacher was somebody that I don't think they gave enough respect when it came time to, like, you Urlacher that last year, right? 2013, I think it was, where they wouldn't offer him, I want to say 250 or 500,000 for one of the all-time Bears greats. Like, that's the type of thing that I'm just like, man, and how they did Briggs and Peanut, and it seems like things are different now. But this is unfortunate when those guys that give so much of their career, so much of their time to this organization, and you just think like maybe they could have did them a little better in that regard. Yeah, it was an iconic era, when Lovey came in, and those were his guys. I know Urlacher came beforehand, but yeah, those were his guys. And it was awesome to see the evolution of that defense. And at that 2012 season, that was the pinnacle, I think, of the Lovey era. Like, we were playing lights out defensively, and it
Yep.
was awesome to be a part of that and play with those guys.
Yep. I mean, there was kind of two different peaks, right? There was the Super Bowl team, the 2006 team that had Tommy Harris and and then it rotated over into 2012 where some different players shuffled in, like Tim Jennings and different players, like you mentioned, Anthony Adams and Israel Idonije, and right. The first run, you had Alex Brown and Adewale Agunlea on the outside. They were incredible. Mark Anderson, then you come in. So, like, there was a rotation of some of the different core players. Then Julius Peppers comes in, but the mainstays were Urlacher, Briggs, Pina Tillman. Obviously, Mike Brown was at the start. Then on the back end, you had some different players, playing safety. So, but the foundational guys, Briggs, Urlacher, Tillman, you mentioned Nick Roach. Well, you had Hunter Hillemeyer before him, and you guys just did such a great job of finding that perfect symmetry. And it was a pleasure to watch. And the biggest shame of it all was that you guys weren't able to host a Lombardi trophy. Obviously we all want one as fans, but you guys as players, and I mean this, like I'm not just gassing you up because you put me in a headlock once. Like, it does, like, that's the biggest thing that I feel bad for. Like, as much as I love Devin Hester, and my friends know, my guy Brad Hassey's in the chat, has stood up in his wedding. I love Devin Hester. The hardest thing was him not getting to hoist a Lombardi trophy. I can't wait for the day for the Bears to win one, but I know how much you guys put into it. So for you guys to not reach that pinnacle, which you guys deserved, but hey, just because you deserve it in this league doesn't mean you're guaranteed it. And that's kind of what it is in this league. So before you get to number 2, like I said, my guy Brad Hassey is in the chat. Stood up in his wedding. He stood up in mine. He's a good man, Corey. Army Ranger, the whole bit. And he's got a question here in the chat. He said, I had a coach that said he doesn't coach hustle. Do you agree, Woot?
I disagree, because I think especially like a position on defense, right? Like any position on defense, running to the football, sometimes that gets out of mind, out of sight, right? You're tired, stuff creeps in, you're in training camp. So I think coaches have to stay on guys about the effort. And I've talked about this. A big difference from 2012 to 2013 was the coaches' attention to detail in 2012, and then the lack of attention to detail for running to the football, covering balls, any ball on the ground, pick it up, scoop and score. And you remember that Green Bay game, 2013, last game of the season, that gets us into the playoffs if we win.
Yep.
There was a ball on the ground.
Peppers got the ball out.
Yep. And people were just standing around. And that's something that would have never creeped in under Lovie Smith, Rod Marinelli, because they did coach hustle, because it was an emphasis on it. So I kind of disagree with that statement, because I think people put an emphasis on stuff. And if you don't, like us naturally as humans, right? Like we have focus, like, okay, we're supposed to do assignment wise. Okay, I got to beat this tackle. Okay. And then after that, you kind of forget about what you got to do. But then if you have a coach yelling at you, chasing you down the field, getting on you in the film study, hey, what was this? This is bullshit, right? You're not running to the football.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is coached. And I think the great coaches don't let it creep in, because hustle is something that can go away when coaches let it creep in. And I think that's ultimately the sign of a good coach, and especially like when you look at defense. You want your guys' effort, balls to the wall every play, right? Sometimes on offense, there's some offensive linemen that don't cover down the field, finish guys downfield. I think most coaches want that. But you see a lot more of defensive linemen chasing down running backs or receivers down the field, just because it's something that is so stressed in the NFL. So
right.
I do think it's coached.
Well, and it'd be interesting to hear his response to that, because like I said, he was an Army Ranger for a long time back when the Bears were in the Super Bowl. I was actually writing letters to him weekly as the Bears would win each game, because he wasn't able to watch the games. And so I would write letters just kind of chronicling the game and like almost trying to write an article and just like break down what happened quarter to quarter. And I can still to this day remember writing him about the Monday Night Miracle and really just trying to like emphasize the insanity that was that game, just so he could kind of feel the excitement. Because I can remember when he went to become an Army Ranger, I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm not joining the Army Ranger. I gotta watch. The Bears are about to win the Super Bowl. I ain't going anywhere. Like, you crazy? The Cubs were also trying to win a World Series. They ended up winning one for like 20 more years, so maybe I could have. But Hassie's saying here in the chat saying I thought he was crazy when he said that, but maybe he was sick of the lazy players. But hey, Brad, too, the other thing you got to think about is look at Matt Eberflus now with the hits philosophy and making a grading system for these players. We heard Tyreek Stevenson here in a recent interview he did with some guys down in Miami saying like, hey, I got benched last year and I didn't know why. And they were like, hey, you weren't hustling to the football. So he knew from that point forward what the precedent was for him to get the reps that he wanted to get at practice so he could be a first string player. And so that kind of, lit a fire under his ass. We saw him do that. Saw Eberflus do that with Jalen Johnson, who's a vet, who's proven himself. So to your point, Woot, holding players' feet to the fire, whether you're a young player or even an older player, certainly serves everybody for the greater good. So, all right, we've gotten through 5 through 3. There's way more than 3 players because you've been cheating this whole time. So that's why this has become extended. So I blame you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We got Anthony Adams.
All right.
We got Peanut Tillman, Urlacher, Briggs, Nick Roach, and Julius Peppers. That's 6 you've already named in your top 5.
My last two are individual players.
Number 2. You've got 3 on
only 2 players.
Okay,
no,
only 2. Okay, all right.
So number 2 has to go with Henry Melton, who we had on the show. He's somebody that I gravitated to when I first got drafted. He was funny, like hilarious dude. We hit it off right away, and us being the younger guys on the team, it was always fun in training camp, in the locker room. He was just a goofy dude, had a good sense of humor, and a gamer, man. It's so unfortunate, right, that he tore his ACL that 2013 year, because 2011, 2012 was arguably, one of the best pass rushers in the game as a D-tack. I really do believe that. And he played the run extremely well in that scheme. And that's what I said about this attacking style defense. Like Henry Melton, if he tried to play like a more traditional type of defense where you're not tacking up the field as much, he probably wouldn't have been as good at stopping the run, or wouldn't have been as effective. But his main thing was quickness, right? He had good strength, but like quickness up the field to set the edge. And that's something he did better than anybody. He'd get off the ball quick, and if they try to overreach him, he'd just undercut him, get in there, make a tackle for loss in the backfield. And then pass rush. I mean, he's a former running back, literally ran a 4.6, 4.5, and just had unbelievable quicks, and most guards couldn't handle him. So it's really unfortunate. I remember that game, and it was so unfortunate to see. It was Pittsburgh, right? We were playing Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, all of them. And it was Sunday night football game, and it was a close game. And I think he went to go plant, and knee buckled. You kind of knew right away based on how he reacted, right? And I remember being in the bus with him after the game and just devastated, right? I've been there, right? In college, when I was thinking about coming out after my junior year, projected as a first-round pick, last couple of minutes of the game, tear my ACL. It's just a feeling that you never want anyone to go through, especially when you're playing at such a high level. You're about to get paid. Like, he was on his franchise tag, and you're like, oh, he's going to get paid. All he has to do is get through the season. He's going to get paid great. And that happens. And you just had to feel for him. Like, tears were coming down his eyes. And I've been in the same position. So I definitely felt for him. And, luckily he still got to play a couple more years in the league. I think he was in Dallas for a couple years, Tampa. But it's just unfortunate, because I think most players sometimes just aren't the same. Like, I know even with myself, and I've talked about this, I was never 100%. Like, I never felt to where I was before the injury. I was able to function and do well. Like the 2012 season, I felt like I was as close as I could be back to myself. Like, I felt like my get off, my everything. But there is something that's always a little off, and I think you just kind of learn how to adapt to that. But hanging out with Melton, off the field, in the locker room, always a good time. And we had some really good times there, and yeah, it was unfortunate that everybody couldn't stay together because I think we were building something great in that 2013 season. After that, everybody kind of got disbanded, and I think the Bears in 2014 they had like three guys from Phil Emery's regime, and I think it was like or 15. It was like Kyle Long, um, who was Jay Cutler, and Sherrick McManus. I think those were like the three guys left on the
Yep.
team in the 2015 season. So I think Phil Emery wanted to clean house, and I think it was a bad thing because we had a lot of good players that he just didn't want to keep because of whatever reasoning. But it took some rebuilding. But I think now the Bears are in a good position. But yeah, it was always a good time hanging out with Hen Mel, especially if guys would be chip diving,
Yeah. So you mentioned that when we had Henry Melton on. Do you want to give people
Yeah.
what chip diving is when you called out Henry Melton for that when we had him on?
Yeah, so chip diving would be the thing. If you're not doing what you're supposed to, you're out in left field, you're not paying attention to something, basically not doing what you're supposed to do. If your eyes were in not where it's supposed to, you're getting reach, you're not getting off the ball. We say, hey man, you over there chip diving, and that would be the joke between like me, him, Marcus Harrison, Izzy, Anthony Adams. That would be the whole thing. You over there chip diving, right? When you eat some chips and dip, right? You're over there, dead to the world because you're focused about what you're eating. So that's going to be chip diving. So that was the big thing there. And yeah, I mean, man, it was fun to watch him pass rush. I think, if it weren't for that injury, I think he would have been, one of the better three techniques in the league for years to come.
When he was healthy, the big year that he had 7 sacks, and that was the third most among all D tackles. And it was only Geno Atkins and another player that had 7.5 sacks that season.
Is it Calais Campbell, maybe?
No, it was somebody else. I had the list when we had him on, but it was Geno Atkins and another guy. But they each had 7.5, and he had 7. And that was of all D tackles in the NFL. So to your point, when he was healthy, he was one of the best in the league, but it also was because of, who also was around him. So it just goes to show you, especially in this defense, like A, you got to have talent, but B, you got to have that talent around you. And then that gives you an opportunity to hunt, so that's what we're kind of hoping for this team. And some of these players have an opportunity. Obviously we had Gervon Dexter on Thursday, and, we talked to Gervon live last year for a show. And I'm here to tell you, like, his confidence and, just his personality. And I don't know how much you can scale that for what that means for this season, but you could just feel a more sense of comfortability from him talking with him this year. And that I think that goes without saying for somebody that's gone from a rookie coming to a new city to now kind of, having a more comfortability and understanding of what he's supposed to do in the defense, comfort in the city that he lives in and the teammates he plays with and the key team and the coaches that he plays for. So I'm excited for Gervon Dexter's second year here on the team and looking for him to flourish like you guys did back in these years that we're talking about. So that leads us to your number one teammate of all time.
I think you know who this is.
It's Chris Conti. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
Chris, I like Chris though. Chris is a good. He got a lot. He
Bears fans don't. No, I'm kidding.
But he was a good dude. But I think you know who my number one guy is. I've talked about him a bunch. Like if you had to guess, what do you think?
Devin MFN Hester?
No.
I've
been all deep.
You leave Devin Hester off this list. We're calling it a night.
Because I told you, I prefaced it with like all my guys are going to be defense. Like
that's true. You did say that.
So it's got to be Israel Idonije.
Israel Idonije. Okay.
So I've talked about this in every interview. I think he was such a great dude. Honestly, like a true pro, a guy that worked his tail off, that came from Manitoba, Canada. Right, where football is not as big, obviously, here as the States. Goes to Cleveland and is a special teamer, works his butt off, gets noticed, comes to the Bears, is a complete special teamer from like 2003 to 2009. Then gets a chance in 2010 to be a starter. Is a starter, beats out Mark Anderson. Him and Peppers are the guys. And just worked his tail off, became a starter from a specialist, like the biggest guy you ever seen running down on kickoff. So I think that's something that, like people don't realize when you watch early Israel Idonije. I mean, he was out there, and they used to have no rule on wedges, right? You could have 3-4 guys, and his job was to break the wedges. And he was a wedge buster. So it was unbelievable to see him running down there, 6'6", 300-something pounds, full speed. I mean, talking about throwing his body on the line, catapulting himself. Like, he told us, like, he's been knocked out cold a bunch of times. And it was just unbelievable to see. But when I was there, literally helped me out along the way with anything I needed, whether it was off the field, on the field, plays, made sure I was in the right spot. Literally, even we're competing with each other 2012 season, helping me out with whatever. There was no hard feelings. I eventually took over as a starter and was just such a pro. Like, literally, there was no animosity. There was nothing. He was the ultimate team guy. And that's something that I respected about him. I think he's somebody that I look back and I'm like, that's how you should be as a pro. And he embodied all of that, right? His charity work off the field, what he did for the community, what he brought every day as a player, what he brought as a leader, and just such a knowledgeable guy in all facets of life. And I know he was big into investing and businesses and all that, and helped guys out along the way. But just such a great guy. Every time I see him, it's awesome to see him. And he's somebody that I always said, like, I really feel like helped me out along the way and helped me in my career and get to where I needed to be.
Well, I mean, in stature wise, you guys were very similar. So I'm sure you both had the same, when we talked to Dexter about his size and, understanding leverage and get off and stuff, I'm sure you guys went through the same types of challenges, and both of you guys, helping on special teams. Izzy was a big part of, some of the special teams glory that this city has, had, and, Devin Hester going to the Hall of Fame here in a month, and I know Devin would be the first one to thank guys like you and Izzy and Brendan Iambadejo and Charles Peanut Tillman, who made not just careers with what they did in their specialty, on defense, but also in special teams as well. And that's what, is the mark of a great football team, and is guys chipping in any way they can. When you talk about a game of inches, those are the types of players you need to get you across the finish line, and win those tight games. So, Izzy certainly embodied that. And then he made a secondary career, becoming a artist, and, his comic drawings became like a staple. They still are. They still do them. Yeah. With the Bears in 2018, they unveiled this, Israel Idonije's different artwork for different players. We all loved it. I mean, they're all amazing, and they still do those to this day, as they add new players in. So he still has an impact, on the fan base and the culture here for the Chicago Bears and Chicago Bears fans. So, it's a good list, Corey. It's a good, and I think the thing that, I think I noticed most with this list is, as much as we can talk about the greatness on the field of each player, and we could continue through, I'd love to talk about guys like Tim Jennings and, DJ Moore. I love DJ Moore in the slot, a nickel corner that had a lot of, flair and attitude to his game when he came in, and so many different players that have come through to help this defense. But the thing that stood out about each player is you just talked about how much fun you had with them, and that's, it's hard because this is a business at the end of the day. But for you guys to succeed as a team, you have to come together on a higher level than just business. Then the business, once you start succeeding as a team and each of you individually as players, then the money comes. But you also have to come together, in an organic way that you guys have done from elementary school, high school, and college. But now it's pros where there's a lot of money at stake, and there's, you got all these different people pulling at you from different ways, advertisers and agents and, teams and everything else. So I'm sure that isn't like every fan expects you guys to all just to come together like that, but it doesn't always work like that, does it?
No, it doesn't. But I do think there's a correlation between the really good teams and like playing at a high level defensively, like how we were, some of those years, 2010, 2012 in particular, the 06 team. I think there's a common thing with how much fun they were having and how well they got along with each other. I think there's definitely a correlation to that. And I think the same thing with any great team. It just shows that like the more you're together, the better the camaraderie is, usually the better result on the field. And I look back at our better years for the Bears, 2010 and 2012, and we had that on and off the field. Guys would hang out with each other. And I think guys were generally friends, and we vibed a lot better in the locker room than, the 2011 season, the 2013 season. I definitely think there's a correlation between the two. But it was a great experience playing with those guys. And obviously, like, that's why I was like, man, you can't give me 5, like, because obviously Hester, like one of my favorite teammates, Matt Forte, Major Wright, like there's so many guys I can go on and on. I was thinking like, okay, these are the guys I have to put on there, but that's why it was so tough.
Right. You hated, Matt Forte, and we're gonna tell him that, It's if you had an issue with Matt, you can air it out here right now.
Never had an issue, man.
Then I'll clip it, and then we'll tag.
You should get his advice for biceps because he's Mr. Biceps.
He was. I can remember when he scored the touchdown in London or in England.
And he did the double.
Then he gave the pump.
Don't do that again, please. Oh my God. It's like, dude.
You know what? Hey, my shoulders are nice though. I'm working on it. All right,
bro. Yeah. But yeah, Forte did curls every day. That's what we used to joke. We used to call him Billy Biceps. Like literally, he do curls every day. He had like a camel hump on his bicep. Dude, he's still in good shape.
That's what I gotta do. I gotta do bicep curls every day.
Yeah, and then some of it's genetics and.
All right, so. Now I'm to assume that if I had included, your media career, that I would have made this list in the top 5. Correct? I'm to assume,
no,
right?
I think you'd be like, I don't know, probably 20th.
20th. Wow.
Because like I work for Fox, Big Ten Network.
Damn.
Yeah, you probably be like 20th. Like 20th. I mean, Carm is definitely ahead of you. No.
Carm is ahead of me. Carm is ahead of me.
Dude, Carm is like on a level of I think like if I'm ranking CHGO, I think you're probably last, bro.
Dude, what are you doing to me right now? What are you doing to me right now? This is crazy. I was gonna set you up to trash Mark Carman, and this all gets flipped on me. And if Carm finds this out, this isn't good for me, Woot. This isn't good for me.
Nah. All
right, that's fine.
Give you a hard time,
I'm not gonna sit with you either when we watch these post game shows. When you're in studio for post game, I'm gonna sit by myself and watch the games without you, and you can watch it with those two Hollywood guys.
Exactly.
Whatever. So all right. Well, I appreciate you putting in the effort, making the list. Going back to the glory days, maybe we'll try to get some of those guys on, and have you guys share some stories. I know for all of us fans, especially during this time of year, we're 26 days away from, I think it's 25 days away from players reporting to camp. And so just trying to get through the dog days of summer and being able to look back on some of these teams and players that we all love so much. And you obviously having a history and giving us the inside on some of the stories that we may not have heard. We certainly appreciate that. So thank you for the stories here and your list here tonight. And so, and thank you to all you that tuned in. Please hit that like button on your way out. Like I said, 25 days away from us being able to see Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears at Hallis Hall practicing, getting ready for this big season coming up. So please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, become a diehard at allchgo.com/diehard. And if you want, on Saturday, we are going out with the CHGO Cubs team. So if you go to allchgo.com/events, you can take this little summer day trip. We're taking over to Milwaukee, taking a nice party bus, going to be stocked up with food and beer, and we're going to have some fun. Adam Hogue, Mark Carmen, Nick Moriano, and myself are going to be joining the whole CHGO Cubs team. We're going to ride out to Milwaukee, watch the Cubs take on the Brewers. I'm going to be wearing all Bears stuff. I'm going to go section to section chanting Green Bay sucks until they throw me out of the stadium.
Yeah, maybe you should do a little bit of more curls before
some more bicep curls before Saturday. All right.
Or maybe just wear a sweatshirt in the dead of summer.
Okay, Corey. Okay, that wraps things up for tonight. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. Jailbreak, if you missed the show, go back and watch. We're going to end it here so you can start back over. Matt Nagy saying Braggs looks squishy. I do not appreciate that. Is that funny? Is that funny? 25 days away. We're excited for it. So yeah, Skeeter, take care and bear down to yourself. And we shall see you here soon. Tomorrow we'll be back. Dave Swirsky, the guy with the parody song that we dropped and collaborated with, he'll be on with us tomorrow at noon. And more stadium talk, Woot. So exciting. I can't wait to talk more about a stadium that may or may not get built at some point in our lifetime. Mark Carmen with some hard-hitting reporting here earlier today that maybe Arlington Heights is getting closer to being a done deal, but I'm not holding my breath. So get to enjoying your Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals. Cubs on, playing the Giants here in a little bit. Thank you again to Corey Wootton. Thank you to all of you in the chat. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon, and always bear down.